This is the kind of thing that airlines are very keen on, and it's the kind of thing that they will try to judge your character on during an interview and during a selection exam. What's up YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy FlyJV and I am back with another video. In today's video we're going to be talking about 4 things that airlines are looking for in airline pilots. For those of you who don't know me, my name is FlyJV and I'm an Airbus A320 first officer and airline pilot. Let's get into the video. First things first, number 1, being a man of your word. In other words, just being someone who honors the things that they say. Being a man who does what he says and says what he does. And that is very important because of the way that you'll be viewed inside your airline, especially by management, by HR, and by recruitment. It is very important when a pilot is recruited that the airline can count on him to not just leave or vacate his position whenever he pleases because maybe he's got a better opportunity, or maybe he just doesn't like the condition he signed on the contract that was given to him for review. I cannot even count on my hands right now the number of pilots that I've seen who just leave, maybe when they go on vacation, they just never show back up, they never come back. Pilots who just in the middle of their contract just decide to leave and just not respect anything that their contract states about ending or terminating an employment in the middle of a contract. This is the kind of thing that airlines are very keen on, and it's the kind of thing that they will try to judge your character on during an interview and during a selection exam to get you inside the airline. They want to make sure that they're hiring somebody they can trust. They want to know that they're hiring somebody who's going to try to put, the good of their airline before maybe the little opportunities that they can get or try to finesse their way out of. You understand what I'm saying? So that is something that is very important to airlines. It is something that will always be judged even while you're still at the airline, whether it is through the chatter that you have with other pilots, whether it is through the things that they overhear you say when you're in the office or whatever. Make sure you build that reputation of your airline knowing that this guy here is somebody we can trust. He's somebody who's always going to be there and do things the way they're meant to be done, if that makes sense. Now, don't get me wrong, like I said, there's always a reversal to everything that I say in my videos, and the reversal to this is obviously if you're in a bad deal or if you're in a situation, for example, where you need to provide for your family immediately and that is known by other people, obviously do what you got to do, but still try to abide by the rules of the contract that you signed beforehand, right? Makes sense? All in all, you just need to be an honest individual. Let's be real here. We're all human beings. We're all a little bit opportunistic. We always want to just get the next best thing for us. But it's also important to think long term instead of just thinking, tunnel and short-minded. Because sometimes you might want to take a leap that will, not be good for your career in the long run. You want to establish a good reputation, and remember that airlines and the aviation industry is a small world where everybody is kind of interconnected, and the people you meet here will know somebody that is connected to your next airline, whether he's in recruitment, whether he's in management, or just somebody that is higher up from you in the hierarchy. Always think about it this way. It's not just about, abiding by the rule to abide by the rules. It's also about your well-being and the well-being of the airline. It's a win-win situation. You want to make things win-win. Don't just think about your win in the short term, which will screw over everybody else and might even screw you at the end of the day in the long term. Think smart. And that brings us into number 2, intellectual honesty. Intellectual honesty is the second trait that airlines look for in pilots. And what is intellectual honesty? Let me give you a simple example. Right now, we're leaving, we're going to the simulator. We have an OPC or an LPC, which stands for Operator's Proficiency Check and License Proficiency Check, respectively, which is basically the simulator checks that an airline pilot has to perform every 6 months. And before the sim, you have a briefing session with your instructor. And the instructor asks you a question. Let's say, for example, he asks you, what is the meaning of a wind shear? What is a wind shear? And you say, a wind shear is when you have a downdraft from a cloud and your aircraft stalls and you crash. That is not the correct answer. And the instructor will tell you, no, wind shear is when you have a horizontal or vertical wind direction and or wind velocity change over a short distance. And your answer is,
yeah, that's exactly what I meant. That's what I meant by downdraft. Obviously, I was referring to vertical descent of the wind, so that's exactly what I meant.
You are being intellectually dishonest. We all have ego and pride. Like I say again, we're all humans, but we have to learn from our mistakes. We have to learn from the things that we know are bad, and like the smaller parts of us, sometimes we need to repress them to rise above. It's very, very important for an airline pilot, especially if you're the first officer who's aiming to become a captain, or if you're already a captain. It is very important for you to have intellectual honesty, because intellectual honesty is you being real with yourself and accepting the fact that sometimes you just don't know something. It's not a matter of you being stupid. It's not a matter of you not studying enough. You just cannot know everything. Even airline pilots with 15,000 hours of flight do not know exactly what an Airbus A320 does, because that's just not how it works. You learn things every single day. The principle, like the base of being an airline pilot, is you learn every single day. As an airline pilot with 18,000 hours, you can learn every day from a first officer, because he's studying in a different way than you. He is learning things in a different way than you. And when you're somebody who's intellectually dishonest, you are blocking your way to newer and more interesting things that you can learn, because you just want to have that pride and ego to tell everybody that you know everything. That is a very bad mindset to have, and it's something that will actually make you learn slower, and it will impede with your progress. So do not be intellectually dishonest. Be intellectually honest, and it is something that will be seen as good, and it actually will give you positive points when it comes to either being hired, when it comes to the way you're marked in simulator sessions, line training, or any type of training or exam in flight, any checks. Now, little secret that I will share with you right now, you probably know it if you're already an airline pilot, but when you go for a check, whether it's in flight or whether it's in a simulator, you know, the instructor will have something that's called a report form with a marking grid, okay? And one of these rows is actually the intellectual honesty row. And if you're somebody who's always trying to argue that that's what you meant, or oh no, I knew what that answer was, I just wasn't thinking the correct way, or you're always trying to prove to somebody that you knew exactly what the answer was even though you gave the wrong answer, you will be marked badly on that grid. And that is not good for you, because that report form goes into your file, which then goes into your airline, and which then stays with your identity as a pilot. So who will be looking at these files, you think? The next instructors that you will have? The next captains that have to fly with you? The next airlines that might want to hire you? And do you think people want to fly with somebody who's intellectually dishonest? All of this is very important for you getting a job with an airline, and for you maintaining a good reputation in an airline. Everybody speaks. Captains speak to first officers. They speak with other captains about the first officers. First officers speak with first officers about the captains, and so on and so forth. Everybody knows everything. You cannot be perfect, but it is always the best thing to have as many positives as you can and as little negatives as you can. And if that requires you to sacrifice your ego for once, I think it's better if you do that for prosperity of your career and just your bettering as a man or woman. Number 3, transparency. Transparency is simply the spirit of being open, communicating openly, and keeping everybody in the loop. Keeping everybody in the loop includes your crew, whether it's cabin crew or the flight crew. You're a first officer if you're a captain, or you're a captain if you're a first officer. The ground handlers, the people on the ground in general, ops, your dispatch, and your airline. As a captain, I'm not a captain, but I've seen a lot of people do it, and I've seen it said to me by other captains who gave me that advice for when I'm a captain in the future. You should do reports as much as possible when it's needed. If anything noteworthy happens, if there's any incident, if there's any accident, or anything that might need to be known by your airline, make a report about it. It's literally that simple. You make a report, you keep the airline in the loop, and you make sure that everything that needs to be known is known, and put yourself out of blame's way, and everybody's happy. It's a win-win situation, like I said in the first point. What you need to understand is this: you are being looked at by your airline, okay? Your airline is being looked at by the local authority of the country in which the airline is based, where they have their air operator certificate. So it is important for you to be open when something happens. Do not withhold information. Keep everybody in the loop, okay, and be transparent. Because if something bad happens to the airline and it gets found out by the local authority, and then the airline finds out that it's you that's to blame because of that thing, and you withheld that information, guess who's gonna get punished for that? You. Last but not least about this point is, do not overplay your hand. Okay, let's say you're a captain right now, okay? Even though at the end of the day, yes, the ultimate decision is yours, okay? You need to make an important decision and you're still on the ground, okay? Make sure you keep someone from the airline in the loop, and make sure you get a second opinion. If you're in the air and you need to take a decision, you need to make a decision. But when you're still on the ground and you decide to take off or make a decision that might impact the safe conduct of the flight, or you're not sure how to really deal with that situation, do not take it all on yourself. Do not make sure you don't have all the blame. Call somebody, make sure you do it the way it's meant to be done. And so then when you bring back the aircraft to base, everything is already known and you're completely out of harm's way because you've communicated openly. You can't keep everybody out of the loop. Just do what you want to do, and then when you're back, say, oh, I did this, this, and this. Because what you've done cannot be retracted. It's already done. And it can be dangerous. And if you put everybody's life in danger, or if you damage property, you damage the aircraft, you're going to be blamed for that. Airlines are not looking for loose cannons. They're looking for people who are, as meticulous as possible, people who are transparent, people who communicate openly. So make sure you are that. Obviously, we all make mistakes, but it's better when the mistakes are small. So it's always better to promote communication so you can avoid these mistakes, these faults, and these errors as much as possible. A mistake that you make or a mistake that you could have made, by reporting it, everybody else will be informed of that. Other captains, other first officers, the rest of the airlines, other pilots, and this mistake will be stopped. If you make a mistake right now and get through it and don't tell anybody, nobody is learning from that. You need to think as a group, not just about yourself. It's good for you, obviously. You will always be the biggest recipient of that information because you're the one who's experienced it. But still, in aviation, we're dealing with people's lives, we're dealing with safety. A lot of things can happen. It's better to learn from the mistakes of others than from your own mistakes. Because sometimes the mistakes that we make can be fatal. Last but not least, number 4 is knowing when to hold your tongue. Now, we're human beings, okay? It's very good to be opinionated about something. It's very good to have your opinions, and it's good to, voice these opinions. But when you work for a certain airline, which has given you an opportunity and with who you've signed a contract willingly, okay, because you know the benefits that you have from them and the benefits that they get from you, it sometimes can be, unadvisable, if I can say it that way, to always be spreading negativity about the airline that you work for, whether it's in cockpits or whether it's in offices or even casually with other people you work with. Because first of all, everybody speaks. Second of all, the wrong person might overhear you. Now, you need to understand something, okay? Nothing is perfect. Okay, we're all just living here trying to make the best out of the situations that we have. But I think sometimes a lot of us, we get into situations that we really are happy to be in, and then when some time passes, we get so accustomed to that situation, we get so used to being in that situation that we start only seeing the negatives of that situation. We start taking the good things for granted. And so that skews our view, and it starts to get us to speak negatively with everybody that we see about our frustrations with it, the way that we're treated, but we forget about the good thing that we also have. Okay, there's a lot of good things, and we should not forget these things. So I challenge you, I challenge us, okay, as pilots, in cockpits, in offices, to spread more positivity, and sometimes know when to just shut up about the things that irritate us, because a lot of times these frustrations are temporary and we just need time for them to be resolved. Okay, the problem is, in the heat of the moment, sometimes when something irritates us, we want to talk about it. We want to talk about it with our first officers. Your first officer, you want to talk about it with your captain. You want to just voice your opinion, but you start rambling, you start ranting, you start talking about unrelated things, you start saying things you don't really mean. And you don't always know who you're talking to. The walls have ears. And this information that you're telling these people, this negative information, your negative feedback about your experience that's personal and only about you, can get to the wrong ears. And that can give you very, very bad consequences, such as losing your job, getting very bad reactions from other people that you work with, even though it's not something that you really meant in the long term. You understand? So it is very important to hold your tongue, okay? Take in what's going on and just keep moving. Because a lot of the things that we talk about in the moment are things that are temporary and things that will not matter in the next 2 months. Positive attitude attracts positive feedback in all types of ways. And the reason why positive attitude towards other people and in the workplace in general is so appreciated is because it's rare. Because human beings have a tendency of just going to the negative and just focusing on that. If you can be that person that stands out with their positive attitude, okay, because you focus on the silver lining, you can see things from a broader aspect than just what's going on right now, I promise you, you will benefit from it. Guys, thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. If you made it to that part of the video, make sure to comment right now, FlyJV VIP Club. Follow me on Instagram, it's at Jason Voudry. I got 10,000 followers recently, and I'm very, very grateful. Thank you guys for following. Secondly, I've made a music channel, okay, it's called Astro JV. The link is in the description down below. A lot of you have been asking for me to drop my music that I posted in my videos, my songs, my raps, everything. So I've made a special channel for that. I've already got 2 songs on there. Make sure you go follow and listen to the songs and let me know what you think of that. Join also the Discord server right now. We've got over 1,000 members. And last but not least, get your FlyJV merch. We've got tank tops, hoodies, t-shirts, face masks, everything that you might need. It's on the shelf down below. Thank you guys for watching my video. It was your boy FlyJV, and I'm out. FlyJV forever, man.
I'm on the moon, I'm on the ghost. They coming with me tonight. We all in the mood tonight. Party, we lady, we get in the mood tonight. They coming with me tonight. We all in the mood tonight. Party, we lady, we get in the mood tonight.